Hi, good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to work on lesson 119. So let's go ahead and touch part 1. Now, let's see if you remember a meaning of each affixes. Now, touch the letters A, B, L, E. What's one meaning of able? Get ready. Able to be. Touch the letters L, Y. What's one meaning of Lee? Get ready. How something happened. Touch the letters R, E. What's one meaning of re? Get ready. Again. Let's go ahead and move on to part 2. First word. What is the underlined part? Shun. What word? Observations. Next word. What is the underlined part? What word? Posture. Next word. What is the underlined part? A bowl. What word? Remarkable. Next word. What is the underlined part? What word? Breast. Next word. What is the underlined part? Shun. What word? Mentioned. Next word. What is the underlined part? What word? Courage. Next word. What is the underlined part? What word? Concerned. Next word. What is the underlined part? Lee. What word? Frequently. Let's go ahead and look at part 3. That name is Vesalius. What word? Vesalius. Touch the next word. The name is Galen. What word? Galen. Next word. What word? Accepted. Next word. What word? Explanation. Next word. What word? Scattered. Next word. What word? Challenge. Next word. What word? Managed. Next word. What word? Conclusions. Next word. What word? Theories. Next word. What word? Indicated. Next word. What word? Dissect. Next word. What word? Anatomy. Next word. What word? Conflict. Next word. What word? Prominent. Next word. What word? Suspicious. Let's go ahead and look at part 4. We're going to talk about what those words mean. Number 1. What word? Elaborate. Elaborate things or complicated things. Everybody, what's another way of saying a complicated plan? Get ready. An elaborate plan. Let's look at word number 2. What word? Proclaimed. If you have proclaimed something, you have announced it. Everybody, what's another way of saying he proclaimed his power? Get ready. He announced his power. Let's go ahead and touch word number 3. What words? Common trait. When we refer to a common trait of living things, we refer to a way in which the things are the same. If 2 flowers are red, their common trait is the color red. Everybody, if 2 people are brave, what would we call their bravery? Get ready. A common trait. Now let's go ahead and move on to part 5. The title of the story is Galen's Theories. Now let's go ahead and begin. Please follow along and listen to the questions. Around 1500, some doctors began to question the medical theories that had been accepted for hundreds of years. These doctors exhibited a great deal of courage because most people were suspicious of anybody who challenged established theories. But a few doctors had the courage to record what they observed. Even though their observations were in conflict with long-standing theories and with the accepted medical practice of the time, the basic theory of medicine around 1500 had been accepted for over 1,000 years. It had been developed by a man named Galen, a Greek who tried to explain how the body worked and how to cure its ailments. Now, listen to question number 1. Why did it take courage to challenge established medical theories in 1500? So let's go back to our story. Listen again. Why did it take courage to challenge established medical theories in the 1500s? So these doctors exhibited a great deal of courage because most people were suspicious of anybody who challenged their theories. So that is the answer for number 1. Now, who had originally developed the theory of medicine that was still accepted in 1500? So let's go back to the story and find the name of the person who had developed the theory of medicine. So the basic theory of medicine around 1500 had been accepted for over 1,000 years. It had been developed by a man named Galen. So listen again. Galen originally developed the theory of medicine. Let's go ahead and continue. During Galen's time, doctors were not permitted to dissect, cut up dead bodies. Galen realized, however, that doctors could not work with the human body unless they understood the anatomy of the body, which is the study of anatomy, deals with the structure of the body, the bones, muscles, nerves, and organs. Galen wrote an elaborate work on anatomy. He drew conclusions about the human anatomy by studying the anatomy of different animals. Since he couldn't work on human bodies, he dissected animals such as pigs and apes. Let's listen to question number 2. Now, what does the study of anatomy deal with? So, the study of anatomy deals with the structure of the body, the bones, muscles, nerves, and organs. Good. Now, question number 2. Where did Galen get his ideas about human anatomy? So, Galen drew conclusions about human anatomy by studying the anatomy of different animals. Because remember, they weren't able to cut up the humans, right? So they had to study the animals. Let's go ahead and continue. Galen proclaimed that human hip bones look like those of an ox, a conclusion based upon his dissection of oxen. Galen thought that different human organs, were identical to those found in the hog, the dog, the ox, or the ape. He made these mistakes because his conclusions about human anatomy were based upon animal anatomy instead of human anatomy. Galen's views of anatomy were accepted as law for well over 1,000 years. Few people questioned his findings. Few surgeons made observations of humans and said, Galen is wrong. Instead, physicians continued to teach Galen's theory and stood ready to fight anybody who challenged it. Let's listen to question number 3. Why was Galen's description of the human anatomy incorrect? So let's go back and find our answer. Why was Galen's description of human anatomy incorrect? So, Galen's description of human anatomy was incorrect because it was based on animal anatomy instead of the human anatomy. Now, for how long was Galen's theory of anatomy accepted? So, how long did they accept it? Galen's views of anatomy were accepted as law for well over 1,000 years, boys and girls. Let's go ahead and move on. We have already mentioned one man who questioned Galen's theory, Leonardo Da Vinci. His works, however, remained scattered around Europe for many years after his death. Another man who challenged Galen's views was Vesalius. He was a doctor and a professor at a leading university. Vesalius met Paré at one time. The two men had a great deal in common. Both relied more on what they saw than on what they were told. They were willing to question long-standing theories and were willing to see what was there, not what they wanted to see. Let's listen to question number 4. So name 3 people who challenged medical theories still accepted in 1500. So let's go back to our story. We have Galen, we have Leonardo da Vinci, and we have Pare. So Leonardo da Vinci, Pare, and Vesalius were the people who challenged the medical theories in 1500. Let's go ahead and continue. Another common trait of Vesalius and Pare was courage. Remember, people were not encouraged to challenge accepted theories. If they did, they could expect trouble. Both Pare and Vesalius attacked practices of the day, yet Vesalius was respected by many people. Toward the end of his life, he became physician to 2 kings. His work helped lead the medical profession to a greater understanding of the human body. Let's listen to question number 5. What traits did Vesalius and Pare have in common? Both Vesalius and Pare relied more on what they saw than on what they were told. Let's go ahead and continue. So after reading my story and following along, you're going to answer questions on lesson 118. After you're done, make sure you submit a picture of your assignment. Have a great day, boys and girls.